Omagyantimanandasya Gyanangana Shilakaya Chaksur Militam Jena Tasma Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Svapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. I'd like to thank all the devotees who read their offerings today. So many nice, beautiful, and wonderful sentiments were expressed, bhakti. A little hard for me, a little embarrassing, but of course it's the duty of the disciple to hold the spiritual master in the highest regard. This is in accordance with the 7th verse of Guru Vastakam, which repeats over and over in our hearts daily. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and it's followed by all authorities. However, it must be noted that hearing such praise, the spiritual master is remembering his spiritual master. And thinking, Gurudev, Kripa Bindu Dia Kore Dhashe, Trinapaki Atihina, Shakala Shahane Baladhyo Koro, Nijamani Sprihahina. Gurudev, give to this servant just one drop of mercy. I am lower than a blade of grass. Give me all help. Give me strength. Let me be as you are, without desires or aspirations. Yogata vitare, kichu nahi bhai, tomara karuna shara. Karuna na hoile, gandiya, panana rikibo ara. If you examine me, you'll find no good qualities. Your mercy is all that I am made of. If you're not merciful unto me, I can only weep, and I will not be able to maintain my life. So this humility is actually required for all Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, but especially for those who hold roles of responsibility, where as a result of holding that responsibility, they may sometimes have to sit in a big seat like this. They may have to be honored and adored by others. However, we must always remember that we are simply instruments in the hands of the Lord. Krishna says in a very famous verse in Bhagavad Gita, 11:13, Nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. O Sabyasachi, you can be but an instrument in the fight. In other words, the Lord is empowering his devotees to do his, Krishna's work. That's all. He comes and he goes. In his absence, the work has to go on. I often say this is a missionary movement. So the work has to go on. So those who take up that work, what can we do? We're just jivas. Well, we're sadhakas, yes. So Lord takes us and he continues, he empowers us to continue the work. Like one time, I said it, I think yesterday, Prabhupada said, Lord Ramachandra conquered Lanka and Ravana with monkeys and bears, and I'm conquering the world with my disciples. Another time Prabhupada said, I have a plan to take over the world in 18 days. Oh, Prabhupada, let's do it. Prabhupada said, but you're not ready yet. So the onus is on the followers of Srila Prabhupada today, tomorrow, and for the next 10,000 years, the golden age of Kali Yuga, to come up to the standard where we can properly represent our spiritual master. Our spiritual master is the whole Guru Parampara. Especially going back 500 years, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as the Yuga avatar with the Yuga Dharma of chanting Hare Krishna, all those devotees who took up the mantle, each generation, they were all preparing for this moment to fulfill the prophecy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that this Sankirtan movement, which essentially means chanting Hare Krishna mantra, it will go to every town and village of the world. If you study each generation, maybe they didn't go out of the country, but they were preparing for someone, some Shakshat avatar, to take the chanting to every town and village. First generation, Narottam, Srinivas Shramananda. Later, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhushana. And then the great pioneer, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, who took up the mantle in earnest in modern times, his glorious son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then, who, in the service of all those great Vaishnavas, who boarded the Jaladuta to go to the West? Our beloved spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. I was there one time when a devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, who are you in the spiritual world? Prabhupada said, if I told you, you'd faint. But we can know for sure that he's an eternal resident of Vrindavan. You just have to read his poetry as he's on the Jaladuta going to the West. So everything was preparation for that moment. We hear how there was just perhaps one devotee. I think his first disciple in India was on the docks seeing Prabhupada off. I imagine it a little differently. I see 33 million demigods, showering flowers as this movement really gets going. So Prabhupada was that instrument. I would say he's the chosen son. Many are called, but few are chosen. And Prabhupada was chosen. In fact, one of my dear godbrothers was a servant, a secretary for Srila Prabhupada many years. He said that Prabhupada told him in a moment of intimacy in the spiritual world, you please go down to the material world, to the earth planet, and you preach Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada humbly said, but Krishna, I'm not inclined towards austerity. There's no austerities in the spiritual world, it's all nectar. So Krishna said, this was from Prabhupada, Krishna told me, Prabhupada said, you just go down, you write books on the science of Krishna consciousness, I'll take care of everything else. And so it came to pass. Prabhupada got the mantle, he was empowered. This is called Gora Shakti. Gora Shakti. He was an instrument in the hands of the Lord. And we're instruments in the hands of Srila Prabhupada and his followers. We're the das anu das, 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 das. We're the servants of the servants. So you get a lot of mercy. If you consider yourself the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant, you're getting empowered blessings from all of these various devotees. So knowing this, that we're just servants, the few words of Bhaktivedanta Thakur to his guru, Tomara Karunashara. I thought if I ever got a tattoo, I'm not into tattoos, but if I ever got a tattoo, it'd be Tomara Karunashara across my chest. Your mercy is all I'm made of. And the proof, I was thinking how to prove, what's the proof that we are empowered instruments in the hands of the Lord and our spiritual masters, is that if need be, they can take that mercy away as well. I think it's John 1:21 in the Bible. It says, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And in that regard, there's a nice example of Arjuna. Actually, Krishna used Arjuna in many ways to teach us lessons. So in this instance, Krishna wound up his pastimes in the material world. He'd gone back to the spiritual world. And sometime afterwards, Arjuna, this famous great warrior who had fought in the battle of Kurukshetra, he was asked to transfer and watch over a group of Brajbasi gopis, to take them from one village to the next. Because rumor had it that there were some dacoits, there were some bandits in the forest. So Arjuna was deputed. So with a little touch of pride, of course he's Nityasiddha, we shouldn't think that he can never be contaminated, but sometimes devotees even take the service of something like Arjuna to be put into illusion so the Lord can give some instructions to the general mass of people. Devotees are so surrendered. So with a touch of pride, Arjuna said, "Of course I can do such a simple task. I fought on the battlefield of Kurukshetra." Told that the Brajagopis, they were, the horse cart was there, the cart was there, and there was 20 Brajagopis, and Arjuna's riding in front, and his sword is there, and suddenly this entourage was attacked by a group of dacoits, bandits, but not big bandits, just kind of, weekend bandits or whatever. And there was a fight, and Arjuna was defeated. And what's more, the Brajagopis in the entourage, they were kidnapped by the dacoits. I heard that, I was thinking, how's that possible? Because actually, like Sita and Ram, Sita was stolen by Ravana, but Prabhupada says, we go deep into the pastime, actually it wasn't the real Sita, it was a false Sita, pretend Sita, like an actor. Because you can't touch the goddess of fortune. She's supremely pure. No one can touch her. So in the same way I was thinking, how did these gopis get kidnapped and touched by these dacoits if Sita couldn't be touched by Ram? So Arjuna was devastated. But later a sage told him, because sadhus, they reveal the truth to us kindly. A sadhu said, Arjuna, it was all the Lord's plan to teach you humility, that you're but an instrument in his hands. The sadhu explained that when Krishna saw Arjuna getting a little proud, he, the Lord, expanded as the dacoits. There's many incarnations we hear as there are waves in the ocean, right? Kurma, Matsya, Narasimhadev, we just celebrated his, where Krishna appears in the form of sound, it's a material element, but sound, Kali Kali Namrup. Krishna avatar, in this age, the avatar is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. And we hear how Krishna even expanded as Mohini, a beautiful woman. When I knew devotee, I thought, wow, it's pretty far out. But here, the Lord expanded as bandits, gopis. It's not a very famous incarnation. We don't really worship that. It was all time, place, and circumstance. And Krishna, in the form of that, they defeated Arjuna. And otherwise, who could kidnap such pure souls as the Braja Gopis? It was Krishna. He kidnapped them. So the Lord arranged this pastime to humble Arjuna. And what is the lesson for us? When the Lord gives a lesson to Arjuna, it's not just Arjuna, but it's meant to be for all conditioned souls, just like the spiritual master. When the spiritual master gives an instruction to one disciple, generally, it can be accepted by all. Of course, there's individual instructions, but generally when the spiritual master gives an instruction to a disciple, other disciples can take it to heart. So the lesson is that we ourselves are but instruments. Nowadays, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire to deliver the conditioned souls in this world. We can't take credit. So The reason I'm saying is that in all humility, I say I'm sitting on this seat today above others whom I feel I should be sitting at their feet, only out of duty. In researching for my lectures, I read in Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, just to say his name, Chaito Dharvana Marjana. You feel that perfect. I love to quote all the acharyas. Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. He had a magazine called The Harmonist. Like our Srila Prabhupada, he has the Back to Godhead magazine. He was very insistent that the Back to Godhead magazine go on and on and on. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati, his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had Sadantoshini. And Bhaktivedanta Saraswati had Harmonist. It would come out every other month. And actually, somebody printed it. Maybe, I think one of our devotees in ISKCON Balaram Mandir, he printed it. And I have all the volumes. And I'm going through them one by one. It's so amazing to hear of the preaching activities of the previous acharyas, because history repeats itself. And many of the obstacles that they came upon, we have today, and many of the opportunities that our previous acharyas had, in some form or another, we also have today. So we can learn from them. So therein, I was reading in one Harmonist magazine, at the conclusion of one Navadvip Dham Parikrama, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur was sitting in a canvas chair on the veranda of his residence called Bhakti Vijay Bhavan. I was like, where is it? Bhakti Vijay Bhavan. We know that Bhakti Bhavan, that was the household of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Kolkata. He actually established different preaching centers in different, even at Radhakund, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his son Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they had a home there. And they had a home in Mayapur. But the main home for Bhaktivinoda Thakur was in Kolkata. And he actually supervised the construction of that home. He was there when they were digging the foundation, because he wanted it built in such a way that it could be used for preaching. And he had a big family. He had 12 children. So during the digging of that foundation, at one point, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, "Stop!" And the workers like, "What?" And Bhaktivinoda Thakur walked down, because the foundation has to be very deep to hold the building. And he, out of the dirt, he pulled out a Shalagram Shila. Yeah, a Shalagram Shila. I don't know. Who knows how that Shalagram Shila got there? But Vedic history is Purana. Purana means, we talk about the history of the universe, the galaxy, so whatever. Shalagram Shila, a Kurma Shila. And when Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur was 14 years old, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave him that Kurma Shila to worship, and he gave him an Ashringa mantra as well to protect him in his future preaching. And just a side note, I was recently in Kolkata, and ISKCON has purchased that property after a great fight for many years. It'll come out in ISKCON News, and we have that property now. So when the devotee was going to that home to that the residents could sign over the papers to us, because who lives there now? The great, great, great granddaughter of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. She lives there. And her daughter, great, 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 great. And I went there, and they look like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. They have the same faces. And the deed was signed. It was historic. I was thinking, maybe 33 million demigods are watching this too. So historic, because other people wanted it. A big fight for that home. They wanted to build a condominium apartment or something. Anyway. So I'm in the house, I'm walking around. Wow, this is where Bhaktivinoda Thakur lived. And I walked into the little temple room, and there was the Kurma Shila. And next to the Kurma Shila, there was a Govardhan Shila that the great-great-granddaughter of Bhaktivinoda Thakur said was worshipped by Jagannath Das Babaji. He used to carry it around his neck. And they're doing very simple work, little flower incense. So I told the Prabhu, I stayed there, I don't know how many rounds I chanted in front of that Kurma Shila. Mercy, mercy, mercy. And I asked that when they renovate the place and the worship starts, can I come there for 1 month and live in that Bhaktivedanta and just worship those Shilas? He said, yes, okay. So I'm just waiting. Wherever I'm in the world, I'm just going to go straight there and worship that Kurma Shila. And there was the bookcase of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. There was, his bed was in the same room. And I said, where are his japa beads? So those distinguished women, they said, oh, we were afraid that maybe someone might come and steal them, so we hid them 10 years ago. And we forgot where we hid them. I said, can you look for them? Maharaj, this is 10 years ago. I said, please just try. See if you can find them. I want darshan. So they went, and I was looking at my watch. 45 minutes later, they come back. We found them. These are the japa beads of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Here's his neck beads. They put them in front of me. I was like, could I touch them? Yes. So I touched one bead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. I was waiting for my hair to stand in, but I didn't do it because I've got a long way to go. But I felt so privileged. They showed me his Bhagavad Gita. He had an edition that was published before he published, but he apparently saw it as proper. I held that to my heart. And then his neck beads were there, and I touched them to my neck beads, and Kripa! So that place is still there. So I got off a little bit here, but it's nectar, right? Our acharyas, and you'll be able to go there and see those Shilas and be present in that home of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So that was Bhakti Bhavan. But his son, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he had a home called Bhakti Vijay Bhavan. Vijay means victorious. And he was there one day. He'd just taken a lot of devotees on pilgrimage to holy places in that area. And he was addressing the pilgrims. And when he noticed his disciple, his name was Madan Mohan Das, who, by the way, had donated the entire cost, this is the 1930s, for constructing Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's main temple in Calcutta, called Sri Chaitanya Math. This devotee worked so hard. He collected in those days, he collected, hundreds of thousands of rupees, beautiful palatial temple, but he was sitting unassumingly, like very shy and in the group of other disciples, directly on the floor in front of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati saw him and commented that he was such an exemplary devotee. He was due so much praise and so much honor. But because he was a Nirupadi Vaishnava, he didn't have any designation. Like Sankirtan leader, temple president, regional GBC, Acharya. So no one was worshiping him, although he was due the worship. So in a mood of humility, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said, I'm obliged to accept all this worship because I have a designation, Acharya. That's the only reason. He was so humble. He saw his disciple who'd done so much. Because he didn't have a title, no one was worshiping him. He said, I have a title, Acharya, so I have to accept this worship on behalf of my disciples. So I feel the same way. I have a title, and that's why there's this ceremony today. There are actually godbrothers and godsisters here who are due the same honor and the same praise as myself. And one sannyasi, Keshava Maharaj, as well. I call him the seventh wave. Seventh wave means, you probably don't understand, but I come from California, and I grew up on the beach. I was a surfer. Prabhupada, he said one time, surfers are sufferers. They'll take birth as dolphins their next life. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for saving me. But we knew the art of surfing, that every seventh wave, by nature's way, every seventh wave is a big wave. Waves are coming, we'd catch some of them, but there was always this big fight, for the seventh wave. So many devotees have preached in this yatra and around the world and developed so much. But when I hear Krishna Maharaj's lectures, those little tidbits he puts up once in a while in his lectures, I follow him around the world, I think he's the seventh wave in the UK yatra. Let's give him a big round. But he's not just, surfing the wave alone. It's like a tsunami, and everyone's caught up in the excitement of his preaching. So you're in safe hands here. So because I have this designation, Guru Dev, which translates for the disciples as Sakshat Hari, I sit here and I take great pride in seeing my disciples make advancement. I'm just passing on the instruction that Prabhupada gave to me and to all of us. I'm just trying to set a good example for them. And when I see how it works, I have so much pride. Oh, these disciples, I often say it that just like when I was young, I'd go to see my grandfather every summer and at a farm. And he just had this, in the barn, he had this, I'd stand there and he'd make on the wood, he'd mark an edge like how much I'd grown that year. And, it started when I was 5. And by the time I left, I was 6'1". So every year he'd do that, he'd stand by, you've grown a lot, boy. That's good. And I take great pride. Yeah, I'm getting big. Like, what? For the body? But like that, when I see this as the same type of thing that every year when there's Vyasa Puja, I hear the disciples read. Prabhupada said one time, you can understand the quality of a Vaishnava by his speaking, how he speaks, like Radhanath Swami. He can speak for 4 hours and no one gets bored. Vaisheshika Prabhu, Shloka Wala. If he to give class, he could just do shlokas from A to Z, but he throws them in from time to time like Srila Prabhupada. So devotees like this. So when I hear the offerings, I'm just more convinced the power of the Maha Mantra. How do we get to where we're at? Harinam, Harinam, Harinama eva kevalam. Lo nasteva, 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 gatiranyatha. It's the power of the holy name. It's the essential ingredient in the process of devotional service. Prabhupada said one time that this is Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga means everything's deteriorating. You read the 12th canto, you'll understand. Everything's deteriorating anyway because of the material energy, but all good qualities deteriorate in the age of Kali. The Prabhupada said there's 2 things that never lose their potency, they never deteriorate in Kali Yuga. I was listening to the tape. I stopped the tape, like, oh, what is, you want to relish the moment, like what's it gonna, like Christmas, right? Little kids are in front of the presents, like, and you open them up. So Prabhupada said 2 things never lose their potency in Kali Yuga. I'm like, what is it? What's that tape? Prabhupada said, jewels and mantras. Because we always hear how, obviously that means a jewel that's not flawed, like sapphire, or ruby, or emerald. Sometimes in astrology, these things are used. We don't need, because we're protected by the Maha Mantra and the Shringadev. But jewels never lose their potency. And Prabhupada said, mantras, however degraded this age becomes, mantras will never lose their potency. And when I heard that, the 16 rounds I chanted next, some of the best of my life. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Chanting in that mood that Prabhupada said one time, they asked him, Swamiji, what is the meaning of this mantra, Hare Krishna mantra? And Prabhupada had the typical, he'd always reply, my Lord, O energy of the Lord, Sri Radhika, please engage me in your service. This time Prabhupada said, what does it mean, this Maha Mantra? It means, my friend, my friend, my friend. So after I heard that mantras and jewels don't lose potency, I was chanting Hare Krishna, but like in the mood of my friend. Friend in need is a friend indeed, like that. So this was the humility of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that he was thinking, it's only because I have this title I'm getting this praise, whereas someone else is sitting down there should also get praise, but he doesn't have a title. So it's just a little glimpse into his humility. And he not only spoke of humility, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but he also demonstrated as well. One time in Navadvip, there was this confrontation. The tension was going between the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas, because the Brahmins were born Brahmins, and generally they are thinking like that I'm born in a Brahmin family, so I'm better than others. It may be true. They take an elevated birth. But Sanatana Goswami says that just as bell metal can be changed into gold by a mystical process, in the same way, a fallen conditioned soul can be elevated to Shuddha Sattva, beyond Brahman or including Brahman to a Vaishnava. By Diksha, by initiation, to the chanting of Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. So there was this fiery debate going on because many devotees were coming from, lower births in Navadvip, cleaners and street sweepers. They were caught up in the tsunami, the wave of Bhaktisiddhanta. He was accepting them. Stop your nonsense, chant Hare Krishna. And it was proven. They became wonderful devotees. So the Brahmins didn't like this. So they challenged Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati to a debate. We'll have a debate between the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas. We have our number one Brahmin and your number one Vaishnava. Let's have a debate. A famous debate. I think there was 800 or 900 exalted people in the assembly hall. So the Brahmin spoke first. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Gaurmani. There's so many verses glorifying the Brahmins, and rightfully so. Then it was time for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. But he was a strategist. He was able to apply the teaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, innovate in such a way as not to affect the core tradition. This is what an advanced preacher should do. Looking at time, place, and circumstance, he should see how to inject Krishna consciousness in modern society, innovative way, without touching the core tradition. So all our acharyas, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would sometimes wear Western clothes. He'd wear Western shoes. He'd ride in motor cars to impress the common people. So he's criticized, but anyway, so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he got behind the pulpit there. What did he do? He was so smart. He started glorifying the Brahmins. Like almost as if he was defeated. He was just going on, and then slowly he started introducing these verses, about the glories of a Vaishnava, how there's ignorance, passion, and goodness, yes, but there's Shuddha Sattva. And these Vaishnavas have been elevated by Vedic mantras because they are all Jivarsu, Boya Krishnara, Nityadas. Inside, they're all devotees of Krishna. And through this chanting, he said, you look at their faces, you hear them speak. And the Brahmins agreed. This went on for hours. They actually accepted defeat because he was a lion guru. If he came to town, all the different, spiritual groups or people who were adverse or against him, they'd all run away. But these Brahmins, there was a standing applause, which is unusual. English were there, so these things were introduced. All the Brahmins, sadhu, 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 we accept defeat. It's like, what? They were glorifying Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So what did he do? He went like this. He went like this. And sometimes in kirtan we do that. We go like this, and then one side chants the other side. He went like this, like Moses in the Red Sea. And by the power, everyone went to the side, and then he went like this. He paid his respects and there were tears in his eyes. And his Guru Maharaj, Gokashore Das Babaji Maharaj, was sitting at the entrance to the hall in the chappals, in the sandals. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, "Don't look at me, it's the mercy of my Guru Maharaj." And everyone turned, "Sadhu, sadhu!" And Gokashore Das Babaji jumped up and ran away. But you see, he'd accomplished something great, but he gave the credit to his Guru. This is teaching us, teaching all of us. Each of us have a responsibility. This is a big responsibility, but I see it as a service. And I'm very happy, because I'm always thinking my duty is to one day bring my disciples to Prabhupada's lotus feet. This is not Ritvik philosophy. No, I'm thinking that Prabhupada is the master at whose feet all masters sit. He's asked us to take on this service of initiating. And I remember it was in New York. I was on the way to London on the same flight as Srila Prabhupada, actually. We were going to Europe. He had asked us to go to France and help the movement there. So, we flew on that plane. I forget my point there. I lost my thought. Kartamashi? Where was I? Yeah. This is called a senior moment. After 75, they come sometimes. You got to pretend, I wasn't. Huh?
You were talking about bringing all as well. We were on a flight with Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. Bringing all the devotees to Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, thank you. Good disciple. I just wanted to see if you could remember the past. So in New York, in the temple, there were a lot of new devotees. Like some of them had just come a few days earlier, some of them Prabhupada just initiated. But the temple president at that time, it was so nice. I was just recently initiated myself. I was also in the line. So then, in Prabhupada's room, temple president was bringing each of these new devotees and introducing them to Srila Prabhupada. He was so elated. Some of them had the fresh hair, the cuts on their head, just shaved up like that. And it was so nice introducing each of these devotees to their spiritual master. It was such a momentous moment for me. Brahmanda Brahmati Konya Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasad, Bhai Lakta Beach. Our history is there, that we've been traveling from one universe to the next, from one species of life to the next. This is our history. One body to the next, but Guru Krishna Prasad, Bhai Bhakta Beach. Somehow Krishna, or if not Krishna, his representatives, the Sankirtan devotees, the book distributors, or maybe you go to a lecture, there's some senior devotee, initiating guru, you hear, and by hearing them, you stop your nonsense. And you take up the process of Krishna. This is historic. So I saw it as an historic moment, because I knew the lives of a lot of these boys. Didn't know them personally, but I could understand what they were doing 2 months earlier. Now they're bowing down to a pure devotee. The most important moment since they left the spiritual world, to reconnect with Prabhupada. Falling, connecting. It's a big smile once we start the journey upward in Krishna consciousness. So my point is that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he was known and feared as the Nrsimha Guru, but he was also very humble in that role. I was also remembering this morning how our own Prabhupada, though worthy of the praise of many demigods, he would sometimes show the perfection of humility. As a spiritual master, there was one deity installation in Amsterdam. It's a famous pastime. And Prabhupada was overseeing the installation of the deities. He was actually preparing the fire arena. He was putting the sand there, doing the bricks, putting the flowers around. This is acharya. Acharya doesn't just mean he sits on a big seat. He also, sweeps the floor. One time Prabhupada showed Jamuna Devi how to clean the floor. Acharya. So Prabhupada's preparing the fire yajna, and he asked the disciple to go get some fruits in the kitchen. But the disciple misunderstood, and he went to the kitchen and prepared a fruit salad. And he came back. Prabhupada's waiting to put the apples in, and he brings a fruit salad. Prabhupada gets angry because the television crews were filming all of this. Kadamba Kanana Maharaj told me this story. The television was there, and Prabhupada got angry. And there was one guest there who frequented the temple from time to time. He said, "Swamiji, just chant Hare Krishna." We do something. Just chant Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada said, "Oh." He took his japa bead, sat down. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. This is humility. Vishad apimitam grayam, amedyad api konchanam. Nishchad api yutamam, stri ratnam dushkularapi. One should accept nectar even from poison, as well as gold even from a filthy place. One should accept knowledge from a person of lower birth, and a good wife, even if she comes from a low family. So in many ways, Prabhupada demonstrated humility. Just chant Hare Krishna, Swamiji. Okay, Hare Krishna. And my godbrother Shivananda, most devotees don't know him. He was one of the very first devotees in Europe and Germany. He did so much to establish Krishna consciousness in Deutschland. So one time he shared a pastime of Prabhupada's humility. Actually, Prabhupada was designated by his godbrother Sridhar Maharaj as a Shaktavash avatar. But even as a Shaktavatar, he was very humble. This instance happened when Shivananda was massaging Prabhupada one day. He was massaging Prabhupada. And sometimes Prabhupada would speak up in the massage. So Prabhupada spoke up, he said, "Shivananda, you should pray to Krishna for me." What? Prabhupada's asking the disciple, "You should pray to Krishna for me." So Shivananda, he was stunned. He blurted out, "But Prabhupada, I don't think that'll work." That's all he could say. He didn't speak very good English. "I don't think that'll work." Prabhupada said, "Why not? You're a devotee of Krishna." Another demonstration of Prabhupada's humility. And for myself, one of the most notable signs of Prabhupada's humility, as his role as our spiritual master, was when he once thanked us for accepting him as our spiritual master. Usually you thank the spiritual master for accepting you. In one lecture, it was a letter actually, to Nityananda Das. It was dated November 12th, 1971 from Delhi. Prabhupada wrote to the devotees in that temple, "I want to thank all of you, disciples, very much for accepting me as your spiritual master. And I promise I will take you back home, back to Godhead. So far as my qualities are concerned, I'm simply trying to carry out the order of my Guru Maharaj." Wow, is that humility? Another occasion, Prabhupada went so far to say that sometimes the spiritual master sees his own disciples as spiritual masters. What? The Guru sees his disciples as spiritual masters? That's the epitome of humility. Because Prabhupada explained in one, I was listening to that series where Prabhupada speaking from Nectar of Devotion in Vrindavan in 1972. So on October 23rd, he said, "The spiritual master does not think of himself as Hari. Although he's offered the respect of Hari, he thinks of himself as a humble servant of Hari and all others. A spiritual master even takes his disciples as his spiritual master. He thinks, Krishna has sent me so many spiritual masters because they have to be trained. Krishna has appointed me to train them. Therefore, he thinks himself as servant of his disciples." Srila Prabhupada ki. So taking all these lessons in humility, I promise my disciples that, and all of you, I'll never take credit for what they're all saying about. I'm listening to these offerings, I'm thinking, well, I'd like to be the person they're all talking about. This gives me a standard to work for. And this way, remain a humble servant. Of course, we all have the reminder about seeing ourselves as humble servants, isn't it? There's that verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's in Shikshastakam, but there's a purport. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 17, verse 31, to remind us how to always practice humility no matter what service we have. Trinada pi sunichana, Torah pi sahishnana, amanina manidina kirtan. One who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, who does not expect personal honor, yet is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Now, Prabhupada's purport to that eternal shloka from Shikshastakam is there in the CC. Prabhupada gives a purport. I was so happy to come across it. Here's his purport, and it's relevant to today. The grass is specifically mentioned in this verse because everyone tramples upon it, yet the grass never protests. This example indicates that a spiritual master or leader should never be proud of his position. Being always humbler than an ordinary common man, he should go on preaching the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Now, everything always gets better in Krishna consciousness. That's my understanding. So the next verse, Adilya 1732, Lord Chaitanya says, Udva bahu kari kahon shuma sharvalok. Nama shrutari ganti para kante e shlok. Raising my hands, Mahaprabhu, I declare, everyone please hear me. String that verse on the thread of the holy name and wear it on your neck for continuous remembrance. Trinada peace and each and those. One of my god sisters, Kishori from France, she actually tattooed the Maha Mantra around her neck like that. It's fading now, she's almost 80. Krishna sees it. She took it literally. And the next verse, 1733, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami advises us, Prabhu Agnaya Kara E Shloka Acharya. Avasya Bhabe Tabe Shri Krishna Charana. One must strictly follow these principles given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this verse. If one simply follows in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya and the Goswamis, certainly he will achieve the ultimate goal of life, Krishna Prem. So then I therefore pray to all of you to please pray that I can remain humble in this position and develop that crest jewel of all qualities, humility. Showing the example in Chaitanya Charitamrita Antilila chapter 25, 20, and the verse is 25. Uttama hana Vaishnava habe nira bhamyana. Jive samana dibhijani Krishna abhishtadana. Although a Vaishnava may be a most respected person, he is prideless and gives all respect to everyone, knowing everyone to be the resting place of Krishna in the heart. And there's a beautiful verse in this regard. We're coming to a conclusion here by one of my favorite poets. His name is Devakinandana. Akala Vaishnava Pada Mora Namaskara Itti Kichu Aparada Nahuku Amara Hoyachan Hoyben Prabhu Jatu Bhaktivedanta Bandana Kori Shabara Charanara Vinda. This is another tattoo. Probably get it like here or something. I offer my obeisances unto the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas, praying I will not commit offenses in my attempts to please them. To all Vaishnavas who have ever been, and to all Vaishnavas who will ever be, I offer my most respectful obeisances. This is a Vaishnava. And here's another beautiful composition by the same author, Devakinandana. In a mood of humility, he's focusing on honoring specifically all the devotees in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. It's very nice. The poem is called Vaishnava Sharana. And the translation is from a lecture by His Holiness Gaur Govinda Maharaj in 1986. Just sit up a little bit, be all ears. This is nectar. Brindabana Vashi Jata Vaishnavera Gana Pratame Bandhana Kore Shabara Charana. To the Vaishnavas residing in Vrindavan, I first pay obeisances at your lotus feet. I worship your lotus feet. Nilachala Basi Jata Mahaprabhu Ghana. Bhumite Padiya Bandhan Shabara Charana. To the associates and devotees of Mahaprabhu residing in Nilachala and Jagannath Puri, I fall flat on the ground and worship your lotus feet. Navadvip Basi Jata Mahaprabhu Bhakta Shabara Charana Bandhan Hana Anurakta. To all the devotees residing in Navadvip, I worship your lotus feet, one and all. This is humility invoking the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Mahaprabhu Bhakta Jate Goda Desha Stiti Shabara Charana Bhando Koriya Pranati. To the devotees of Mahaprabhu who are residing in Goda Desh, I worship all your lotus feet. I pay my obeisances at the lotus feet of each and every one of you. Isn't this nectar? Jai Deshi, Dejeshi, Bhaishi, Gorangera Ghana, Urdva Bahu Kori Bandhu, Shabara Charana. To the Gaura Bhaktas, the devotees of Gauranga, who may be residing in any country, be it an Eastern country, a Western country, or wherever you are, with hands raised up, I pay dandavats to all your lotus feet. This is 400 years ago. To all the Gaura Bhaktas, if you're in an Eastern country, Western country, wherever you are on the earth planet, he's envisioning the Sankirtan movement going on. He worships. Hanachena Hobena Prabhura Jata Dash Shabara Charana Bandhan Dante Kori Gash. Those who are already devotees of Mahaprabhu, those who will come to Mahaprabhu in the future, and all of you who will be devotees of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, all you future Gaura Bhaktas, I worship your lotus feet, one and all. He's got all bases covered. I never heard anything like this. Brahmanda Tarite Shakti, Dare Jane Jane, Evara Purane Ghana, Gaya Shebe Shune. Even a single pure Vaishnav can deliver the whole world, such is his potency. This is the Vedic conclusion. One must obey it. One must glorify the Vaishnavas. One who glorifies the Vaishnavas is very fortunate, for all of his sinful actions will be destroyed. That is stated in the Vedas and the Puranas. Mahaprabhura Ghana Shaba Patit Pavan Tai Lobe Mui Pape Loino Sharan. The associates of Mahaprabhu, the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, all of them, every single one of them is Patit Pavan. For they're deliverers of the Patita, the fallen souls. Developing a greed in my heart, I hold their lotus feet close to my chest. Banana karete mui kata shakti dore tamo buddhi doshamui damba mata kore. I have no strength, no shakti to glorify the Vaishnavas. I think, yes, I can do it. I can glorify Vaishnavas. But this is impossible because they are so great. Only out of ignorance have I developed such pride. Lala, you can speak after me. Tapi mukera bhagya. There's a nice swing outside. Tatapi mukera bhagya manera ulasha dosha shami mo adhame koro nijadasa. Yet my misfortune is such that I am mukha, a dumb man. I have no power, no speaking power to glorify the Vaishnavas. Still I get pleasure in my mind by doing so. Please excuse my offenses at your lotus feet. Please, all of you Vaishnavas, past, present, and future, accept me as your servant. Sarva vancha siddhi hoy, janma bhande chute, jagate durlabhaya, premadana lute. All desires will be fulfilled if one gets the mercy of a Vaishnava. You will be freed from the clutches of Yamaraj. Then you will be able to achieve prem bhakti, which is very rare in this material world. It is only by Guru Kripa and Vaishnava Kripa that one can get that prema. Here's this last verse. Manera Vashana Purna Achita Ratehaya Devakinandana Das Eleba Koya. The deep transcendental desires that you have in your mind will be fulfilled very soon if you get the mercy of a Vaishnava. It is for this reason Devakinanda has sung this song. Let's give him a big round of applause. So let us conclude today with Srila Prabhupada's own words, glorifying devotees. I just love it. It's in a letter dated February 4th, 1972. Prabhupada wrote, "The devotees of Krishna are the most exalted persons on this planet, better than kings, all of them. So we should always remember that, and like a bumblebee, always look for the nectar of the best qualities of any devotee, past, present, and future." Srila Prabhupada ki, I go Premanande, Shri Guru Parampara ke, back to Godhead ke, take all the 14 worlds with us ke, go Premanande. Hare Krishna.